Well, the holidays have come and gone once again, but if you've forgotten to get that special someone in your life a gift, well, Mint Mobile is extending their holiday offer of half off unlimited wireless. So here's the idea. You get it now, you call it an early present for next year. What do you have to lose? Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Limited time 50% off regular price for new customers. Upfront payment required. $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12-month plan. Taxes and fees extra. Speeds may slow after 50 gigabytes per month when network is busy. See terms.
A Swift Kick in the Ass, episode 27.
All big changes start with a swift kick in the ass. Join the journey of lifelong friends, John Curran and Tom Stewart, as they make conventional thought bend over and take a boot to the keister. Warning, listeners may notice a force equal to or greater than needed to get your ass moving. A swift kick in the ass, living life on your terms.
Welcome, I'm Tom Stewart, and I'm joined with my lifelong friend, John Curran, and another friend today named David. David comes to us all the way from Guatemala originally. Obviously, he lives here now, and I hang out with him and go to church with him. And David has a very interesting story, and I asked him to come in as a guest because I think he could share something about ordinary people going through extraordinary change. So we wanted to hear a little bit about David's story and where he comes from and how he's overcome some rough spots in our life that everyone faces, and I think it will enlighten you. John, welcome.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, this show is about the swift kick in the ass that we receive throughout life. And what we learn is that when we get kicked down, we have to learn how to stand back up, pick ourselves back up. And I think David's story is just that, exactly. David, maybe you could tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. My name is David Robles. I was born in Guatemala. Anyways, I was born in Guatemala City. I was the last child. My mother. Okay, let's see how we start this. I was the last kid of 4 kids. My mother had a firstborn. She became a widow, and at a young age, and then she met my father. He was already married. He had already had a set family. So out of that relationship with him, she had 4 kids, and I am the last, the baby one.
So you're a baby.
I'm the baby of that relationship. I knew him, I call him father, but that's about all. Anyways, from an early young age, I was introduced to American music. So not much his Spanish music, but more the Beatles, Elvis, because my older brother was a big fan of Elvis and the Beatles. And plus, he played guitars and everything, so he played, and so my upbringing was towards much like coming to America, actually, coming to the United States.
You had exposure to the culture before you ever came here.
Yes. I even, started, my brother, he would speak some English back then. So that's how it was.
Did you learn English like before you came here, or did you learn after you got here?
A couple words, 1 or 2 words. You regular, where like where things are, or how much things are, and and stuff.
Burger King, McDonald's,
and stuff like that. But when I came to the United States for the first time, my older brother had come to Guatemala in a way to rescue us, which was me and my mom. My other brother, had been just killed, murdered. He had a life of drugs. And back in those days, repeated, what would you say, repeated,
offender, right?
Repeated offenders, and they eventually what they do was just kidnap them and take them somewhere and murder him, kill him.
So was he killed by the cops? Or?
He was killed by a death squad. The thing was that he was nabbed by the death squad and two other guys. So it was three of them. The other two died, didn't survive. He did survive. And but the newspapers, just put in the whole announcement on the newspapers that he had been found and survived a murder attack. And so what ended up happening, we were happy because we were looking for him. He was missing for days. We looked all over, the morgue, hospitals, everything. We couldn't find him. Finally, we found him. We were happy and we saw him. And he had been left for dead, but he survived. And so the last time I saw him there, he was in bed and he had a big cut right there in his forehead from a machete. And he was, just hit with a machete. And he couldn't say much. And that night, these people snuck into the hospital, dressed as just like in the movies. They're just dressed like
Breaking Bad.
They just broke in there, yeah, and they stabbed him. I think they said it was about 30 some times in the chest.
Wow.
Stabbed. Yeah.
So these death squads, is that gang related or drug related, or is it government?
No, it was government.
Okay.
This was back in the 70s, 1972, 73, 74, 75. There were no gangs back there yet. There were only government, politicians killing each other, stuff like that.
So this is the place where you grew up was Guatemala City.
Guatemala City.
So a big city full of people, and I can't even imagine what it would be like to be a child growing up with all of this violence around you, death squads, and I mean that would either make you or break you. I think be very, very tough living.
Right, and like I was telling Tom, that I have PTSD based on not what I saw on regular life outside my home, but what was going on in my own house. And my brother, the one that was murdered, he was my terror. He was very heavy on drugs, and he was also very, very resentful towards my mother and towards my father. He very bitter about my mother having a relationship with this man who was married, and he pretty much didn't want to live. He was very, I guess, sad of living and stuff like that. And so whenever he overdid it with drugs, back then in the 60s and the 70s, whatever, he would come home and he would just take it out on my mother and try to kill her. He just wanted to kill her. And so that was me watching him coming and going. And there were no calling the cops. You just had to run to go to the police station, available and try to see if you can get a couple of officers that would come with you. And so that was my life for about 2 years, I believe, very constantly, mainly on the weekends, I remember. So that right there, I think it affected me mostly, that living under, not knowing what was going to happen, from one night to the other.
Right.
How old were you at that time?
Well, see, he was murdered when he was 24. He was, I believe he was 8 years older. I was probably 12, 13, 14, towards going to 15. Those were the tough years.
Yeah.
And those are the years that usually kind of change which path you're going to walk down too.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's how I developed my fear for drugs and alcohol. And so ironic because, I ended up doing it myself. So, it's like, and I think that the problem with me was that I became so self-aware of my um, mental, instability, my mental problems, which I think it was I wouldn't say that I was fortunate to know, but I think ever since knowing that my frame of mind is not normal, it's been a struggle, trying to get by.
Yeah.
It's really
So, so take us. So, how old were you when you came to America?
I was 15.
15. So after man in that struggle, then you came to a new country and had to learn a new language.
Exactly.
Did you start high school here?
No, I went to middle school. I went 1 year to middle school. They put me. I was in seventh grade.
Did they stick you? Were you isolated with other kids away from because you didn't speak English at the time, or
No. I went to actually my brother put me in a Catholic school, private school, and I thought that everything was going to change. I thought everything was going to be, just great. I was so happy. This happened to be Chicago. I went to the big city in Chicago. Chicago was a great city, but soon I found out that my older brother, he was an alcoholic, a drunk, and he was living there. He was making a lot of money, but he was also wasting it away, and he also took it out on me. I was like, so his frustrations, he had also some kind of resentment towards my father because he wasn't his dad. You can imagine that, it's all screwed up. And so that's when I started trying marijuana. That was my first time I smoked pot. That was when I first started drinking. I tried my first beer and booze. I dropped out of school. My brother, he allowed me to drop out of school and just get a job. So I started bussing tables in the big city. This city it's just like, like they put them in the movies, it's a big city and you work in places where you see, beautiful women and stuff and the booze comes and goes. And that's how I started drinking. And of course, because of my upbringing, I was very shy. I was a wimp, afraid of getting hit, afraid of anything, I wouldn't speak, and when my first time I got drunk, it just loosened my tongue. I said, okay, this, I like this. And that was me. And that's how I got addicted to alcohol. And it wasn't long when I realized that I said, yeah, I'm an alcoholic. That was the, the kick and the bug when I realized that I'm an alcoholic, so I need help. But at the same time, I wasn't really looking for help. I was just thinking that it got really complicated. It can be very, very complex. It's like, oh boy. One day you are hating it, and the next day you just, you enjoying yourself because you're drinking and you think that you are properly socializing or talking and stuff like that. Well, who knows what you say? Who knows how because the next day is totally different.
It's like any addiction. I mean, there's obviously something that attracts you to it or makes you feel good in any drug, or whether it's, booze or marijuana or sex or whatever it might be, that keeps you coming back, or even food. And then afterwards, you've gorged yourself on whatever it is, and then you start feeling guilty and bad, and you sink into another low, and then you return for that pleasure again, and it's a vicious cycle.
Right. True. And not too long after I started drinking, I had my real first bad hangover. The kind of when you hug the toilet bowl, and I was just just saying, no, I won't do it again, all repentive, just, I'm so sorry, please, God, let me leave. I'm not going to do it again. That's how I felt I was going to die. That was my first hangover, and it was real bad one. It's real scary. And that was my first hangover, and out of that one came so many, it's amazing how one can go on like that.
So what made you decide to turn another leaf? To change your life and to say, "Hey, I'm an alcoholic. I need help," and start. I mean, start down that road of making change. And how long did that continue?
A long time, a long time. I first realized that I had to stop. I tried. I tried religion, like so many have, you go to the Baptist church and I cannot remember how many times I have accepted Jesus as my savior. It's just going to a tiny little church off the side of the road and just crying like crazy, because I just felt so hopeless and just, trapped. And so, of course, religion, they say, hey, here, we'll stop you. And then I tried AA also. AA, funny because AA didn't really work for me. I don't know why. I guess because I realized that I rely more on being depressed, that I have a depression, that I have a chemical imbalance, that treating that first will help me treat my alcoholism, which is not true. It's not really that way. It doesn't work that way, but it helped me a little. It did.
So you tried church, you tried AA. Did you then go to a doctor?
No.
Or how did you recognize that about depression? Because you just mentioned depression.
Right. How did that happen? I think somebody mentioned it. Somebody said to me early on, you look depressed, and because I also ended up in jail a couple nights, a few times, ended up in jail, from the disorderly conduct when you're drunk, and it's like, it's, I was lucky that I never really committed a crime under, being drunk, that I would end up in prison, but I did end up in overnight, like they call it, in jail, arrested overnight, and the next day, they just go to a judge, and and that was it. But nights in jail are very, for many, can be a swift kick in the ass, but it wasn't for me. It wasn't for me. I was like, in a way, it was. It is funny because from when I was a kid, I said I'm afraid of drugs, and yet I ended up doing them. I'm afraid of being arrested. I ended up in prison, and yet I ended up getting arrested a couple times. I have to say that I did contemplate a suicide a couple times because I saw my brother try suicide also. I tell you, my life story, it's really, 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 for me, it's a little exceptional compared to others coming from that part of the world, I would say. Because some people would say, oh, well, my mother, my father, they didn't love me, so they abused me and everything. And that's not how it was. My mother said she would love me and turn around and she would take her frustrations out on me. So right now I'm going back and forth with my life story telling you this. My first swift kick in the ass was my bad hangover when I swore not to never drink again. because I was dying. I was actually dying. I had nothing else to puke out, and I was running out of breath and everything. Somehow I lived. Okay, that's how scary that was, you know. And then getting arrested in the subway in Chicago for being drunk. And then suddenly you wake up and you're in the middle of, in a big room with the rest of everybody else. And not so tough anymore. I'm looking at all these people in here, and lucky enough, I didn't, ended up spending, weeks or days in there. And that was another swift kick in the ass, but I still ended up doing it again. I kept on drinking. And,
So what got you to stop? I mean, it doesn't sound to me like it just happened overnight. I mean, you had to went through some very tough times, and I mean, I know from my own experience, you can go through tough times and go through things that you think will turn that light switch, and change everything, but then you find yourself right back there again. I think it's a constant struggle.
It is. I mean, we talk about that even on the show. We never say that there's one swift kick in the ass that can change your life. We always talk about multiple swift kicks in the ass, because it is the constant struggle with yourself. Your mind is your worst enemy. Yourself is your worst enemy. And you know what's right to do. You know how to change it, but following through and actually keeping the consistency of change, it's very difficult. It's probably the most difficult thing in the entire world.
Yeah, and that's what happened to a lot of people out there that go through that. They see that there is no way out. There is no answer to it, because, I mean, who in the right mind who want to do or end up in places as that? It's not something that somebody just want to, okay, I'm going to, just end up getting arrested and go to jail just to find out, or just getting drunk for the hell of it, and then, getting sick, or being homeless. And because the thought of feeling hopelessness for once after all those, so many times, and like you just asked me, so what got me, actually finally was the that got me through this. And I guess that's when I met my wife, which is a funny story. It's a real funny story, because I was homeless when I met her.
Let's hear it. Let's hear how you met her.
I used to when I was homeless, I used to go around and ask people's houses, and offer to clean up, do some yard work for food. And so somehow I did that. I established a tiny, small, clientele of people that they finally ended up trusting me somehow. Because I was also hanging out with some bad people too. People that was their way of life. There were no morals, no moral values at all. That was the way it was, which it was very hard for me to hang out with that kind of people when I used to see them as completely wrong, and it's like, well, anyways, these people that I was helping in the house and doing their yard and everything were in charge of it's called the Art Deco festival in Miami Beach back in the 80s. And they take volunteers, and volunteers go there for the weekend, and they go there and help sell merchandise and stuff like that. And that's how I met her. I remember being really hangover, and there she was, and I just offered my help to help around, and somehow I had enough money that I went and got myself a quarter pint of rum, and sip by sip by sip, I started getting friendlier, and somehow see, this is what you gotta ask yourself, okay? It's like, you ask yourself, there I am, first all hangover, all down, unfriendly, not speaking nothing. Suddenly I start changing in front of her face, and I get drunk in front of her face. But yet she said that she felt something. She said that when she actually saw me, she said she felt something, and I cannot explain what. And from that day on, we established a relationship. We met on a January. 6 months later, we got married.
Wow. Quick.
I Before that, I told her, I told my wife, listen, I'm a drunk. I'm a drunk. You don't want me around because I'm a drunk. I'm an alcoholic, and she probably couldn't believe me. I remember one night she used to come meet me in the park. She now back then she didn't know, but she would say, "Oh, you always wonder why I had to meet you in the park somewhere, you never took me to your place." That's like, I didn't have a place. I remember why she looked so happy coming down walking coming down the street, and she had a fifth of vodka for me. Poor little soul, she didn't know any better. That was funny. And she says, "This is for you," she says. And so we party and we talk. And so we talk. We talk a lot, and we had a lot in common. A lot. And I guess the good thing is that I didn't took advantage, as somebody else probably would have. Some of the fellows I used to hang around with, he would say to me, just take advantage of that, because but I didn't want to do that, and because I ended up liking her and everything, and so I told her, I'm a drunk, and she says, "Well, I don't care, just marry me." And she's the one that proposed.
Wow. Well, she obviously saw something good inside of you that you yourself did not see.
Exactly. And even after that, can you imagine this? Even after that, okay, you find your guardian angel, if you can say, sent by God to you, okay? Putting it that way. You can say you technically saved, okay, now, saved, but no, I kept on going.
Here on A Swift Kick in the Ass, we talk a lot about purpose and having a higher purpose. Like, for instance, for me, what really brings a smile to my face is my family, my wife and my children. And when things get really tough for me, I spend some time with my little boy who's 4. And it makes it all worth it. And I see that with you and your wife. She gave you a reason, to straighten out your act. And she gave you that kick in the ass that started heading you in the right direction, rather than just, one of those kicks that leads you kind of back to the same place again and again and again. I mean, sometimes it takes, sometimes that's what it takes. And it takes others to come into your life to show you something about what's inside that you can't see yourself.
Right.
And David's they're a good family. I've known David for a long time, and our daughters grew up together, and our daughters went to school together. That's how I met them. Is when I think my daughter had her first sleepover, and that was the first time that David came over, and he was like checking this place out. I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna let my daughter sleep here with this crazy looking bald guy. But we started talking about martial arts because I think he saw my Wing Chun dummy, and we instantly hit it off. And David is also the kind of guy that when I lost my job and I was down and out, I think it was 18 months without work. He's the one that came and offered. He says, "Hey, I'll pay you rather than I don't forget how his daughter was getting to school at the time, but I'll pay you." And I ended up funneling it to my mom, but still, him and his wife came to help us because they knew that we were in a tight spot, and there's not many people that do that. A lot of people feel bad for you, but He actually had cash in hand. And I know he didn't have a lot of cash to give, but he still was that kind of person.
That makes a big difference. I mean, it's those little gestures. Really the little things that count. I agree.
But one of the messages that I have gotten by reading books, reading the Bible, all the stories, all the great philosophers, and the teachers and the rabbis and all that, is that it helps a lot when you get out of yourself and help others.
Yeah.
And you get out of yourself and then and help and always think about what others don't have or been through, and where you are at the time. I think that's something that I believe that it works, and I believe it has worked on me. Try to be selfless. It still comes back. It still comes back and haunt me. Once in a while, I'll feel that the thirst, or once in a while I'll feel very down and out, even though I'm on medication. It comes back, and by the grace of God, whom I happen to believe in, I make it through, because it's a 24-hour thing. That's I never. Well, I used to, but I stopped projecting a long time ahead, thinking we're never going to survive, because the way I feel today, it's just today is today, and that's it. It's only 24 hours. And that helps a lot.
Just keep moving forward. That's good. Keep up the fight. And keep trying to make things better. Making change in your life is very difficult, and it's a lot of hard work. And it's I think the journey. It's never a destination. You will never ever reach a place to where you are completely happy, and that you don't want to ever change anything else. That's not the way life is. I think our life is our experiences. I mean, not only every day, but I mean every moment, and it all adds up. It makes life interesting, and I agree. I think we can help each other, and we can all learn from each other as well. And I mean, I love to hear stories where, when people are down and out or going through a difficult time, someone steps in and gives a hand, or even if it's a small gesture, but goes out of their way to help others. I think that makes a huge difference in their lives and everybody's life, because I think it makes the world a better place.
Absolutely. And David's I know he's coming across and telling you the bad things of his life, but I see a lot of positiveness out of David too. I mean, he's spiritual. I always enjoy talking with him. We used to work out together for a while. He's active. He runs. I mean, he's into health, and I think that's a good thing. It's training. I know it always picks us up, and me and John have had several podcasts here where we're talking about how we're trying to get back into shape, and it's hard. And even to count up, me and David for a while were meeting on Saturday mornings, and it was probably my fault, because sometimes I would sleep in and I'd be like, oh man, I don't know if I can make it now, or I was at jujitsu class or something like that. And I was like, well, how am I going to work out now? I've already had a workout. So I feel bad, because sometimes I have fallen down and not showed up, and not, I guess maybe David needs to hold me more accountable.
Oh, okay. I can do that.
You just opened the door, Tom.
That's right. But
Yeah,
I'll tell you, it's no matter how difficult, no matter how impossible, no matter how hopeless it seems, it's accept how you're feeling at that moment and just live through it. Okay, live through it because oh, by the way, did I tell you I went like for 4 or 5 days without eating one time? It's like that was ugly too. Going hungry. Uh, but it's just go through it and don't do anything crazy. You know, don't don't do anything crazy because then it gets even worse. Just accept what's on you at that moment because tomorrow, who knows? Tomorrow is different. It's tomorrow's another day. It's only 24 hours. Because and that's about I can say to anybody out there, regardless. I say it if I'm saying it to them or to anybody, I'm saying it to myself at this moment too. And that's the other thing I do. I what's the word? I auto analyze myself. I do my own, tuck down and I tuck myself out.
Self therapy.
It's my own self therapy, and I guess that's part of my craziness because I ended up talking to myself and talk back too. I come up.
What I hear you really saying is when things are tough, don't get too down on yourself and realize that tomorrow is another day and another opportunity to do things better. And just go at it keep going day by day. And you'll get through. You just have to keep pushing, and tomorrow offers another chance for you to do that and to change things. You obviously have changed your life a lot. You're married now. You have children. You're not homeless. You're exercising more than Tom and I. You've brought this into you've made huge changes into your life. And anyone can talk about changing and do something once. That doesn't make it that doesn't really make a change. You've done something once. In order to change, you need to build that into your life, and that takes time. And it's a daily progress.
Yes,
absolutely. It's like Rocky when you got to keep moving forward, right? And win the fight.
Oh yeah, but in my case, fights. The fight never stops. The fight never stops. Just that's how it is. Just go on, go on. Everybody's psyche it's different. You just if you can learn how to talk yourself out of bad things or into good things or whichever it is, because that's how wisdom comes. Wisdom when you know what the consequences of any action you're gonna do. When you know ahead, then you are beginning to learn. Or in my case, you're beginning to see things clear because alcoholism, booze, it really blocks your mind completely. It leaves you in a cloud for a long time, even after you stop. I went for 2-3 years where I couldn't see anything. Nothing was clear to me, nothing. But I just kept on hanging in there. It's not easy. People I see people out there that said, it's rough because no, I don't understand. Nobody understands me. And I say that's true, but just don't just 24 hours. Just it is. It's miserable. They call it the dry drunk syndrome because it's just like you're impossible to live with, you're impossible to deal with other people, and because you just want to explode. And so eventually it clears out little by little. You start, the fog in your mind starts lifting, and and so you see once in a while clear things, and that's a good feeling, I'll tell you, that's a good feeling when something makes sense, something positive makes sense. It's like, it's a good feeling inside. It's like, yes, okay, yes, I'm starting to live now. Because before that, you're not living, you're just
Existing.
existing.
Yeah,
Exactly.
So David, how did you go about giving up alcohol? Was it cold turkey? Did you
Yeah,
just stop one day? You just decided no more. This is it.
well, no, well, in a way, yes, but I did, fell off the wagon a couple times, and I have. It's not. It's not that. It's not that really. You know. Let me be honest enough to tell you that I sometimes feel that when it comes to alcoholism in me, I probably never hit rock bottom. To me, rock bottom probably would have been life in prison from where I was before I met my wife. That would have been my rock bottom, life in prison, or probably even death, close to that. So to stop cold turkey, it's 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 really difficult. Some people require a lot of help, and, and 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 I rely on me being depressed that I went and took meds instead. So I think the meds have helped me too.
It's also who you surround yourself with, David. I mean, you're now in an environment where you don't have as many people drinking around you. Sure, I mean, they still, your wife might drink some wine here and there, but it's not like you're in that constant environment, right?
And that's the other thing also. When it's you yourself and nobody else that has to stay sober, okay? Yes, your wife loves you, your wife knows that you're an alcoholic, but once in a while she's gonna forget that you are, and she's gonna take you to a party, and she's gonna wonder why you're not so sociable. When inside you just agonizing and you're just saying, what the hell's going on? Why did she bring me here for? I hello, I cannot drink, and but I don't want to restrict her either. I cannot say, you just cannot go here and there anymore because you're gonna make me drink. You cannot say that. I have come close to say to her, you're gonna make me fall again and start drinking, but it's my own responsibility. It's me, nobody else.
I'm interested in knowing, do you feel like just one drink would just set you back on that course?
No, no. I tend to deceive myself because it's a double-edged sword. This analyzing and all this philosophy learning and all this reading and all this stuff, it can really deceive you in a way where you can say, yes, one drink is no problem. And that's dangerous because I have done it.
You justify it, right?
You justify it, Yeah, yeah.
The reason I ask is because I used to smoke cigarettes from in high school. I started smoking cigarettes, and I was a heavy smoker for many years. And the way I quit was cold turkey. And of course, I fell off the wagon several times. And in fact, I smoked for several years, and I quit. And I quit for several years, and then I went on a long car ride by myself, and I was on vacation. I was bored, and I thought, oh, I'll just pick up a pack of cigarettes to smoke while I'm on the road, and I'll give that up. I've quit before. It's no big deal. Well, yeah, I quit again several years later. And I recognize that if I have even, and it's been over 15 years for me now, since I quit smoking cigarettes. I realize all I need is that one cigarette, and I'll be back. I'll be back at a pack a day again. So I avoid that. I will have a cigar every now and then, but I think that's even been years for me. And then that's more of like a social thing, like for celebrating.
Right.
But
The fact that you don't need it, it's that I used to smoke too. I was a pack a day also, but my reason for stopping was that it didn't fit with what I like to do, which it's working out and exercise and running. Running was my passion. Running, so you interfere with that. But stopping is not easy. It's like I remember I bought those nicotine gum. I would chew a couple of those and at the same time smoke a cigarette. Can you imagine that?
The way I quit is that I was sick. I had a cold, and I left.
Yes.
I left work and I went to the grocery store and I bought my sick food. I bought my chicken soup and my orange juice and my ginger ale. I felt terrible, and I bought a pack of cigarettes. And I remember I was sitting on the couch at home, and I ate my chicken soup, and of course you want a cigarette after you eat. So I lit up the cigarette, and I just coughed my head off. And I thought, what the heck am I doing? This is I can't do this anymore. And I said, I feel like crap already. So I know that after a few days, the nicotine leaves your system. I'll feel better. And the next few days, I'm going to feel bad anyway. So I might as well just quit now and be done with it. And I had that fresh pack of cigarettes there on my counter. And I thought, you know what? If I want to start again, they're right there for me. And I haven't smoked since that time. But I always remember too that for years I would have urges. I mean, it continued for years. I would have this urge, and I would just think back, very much like you said, think back about why you quit, because the reasons why you quit are just as valid a year down the road, 5 years down the road. Doesn't matter. They're just as valid as they were then. So I if I ever get an urge, I always think back. Yeah, I hated smelling like cigarettes. I like to be able to breathe. The taste in your mouth, it's just not even worth messing with. So, and then it passes. So, I mean, even though 15 years down the road, I'll think about it every now and then, but I know better now. So it is a constant. It's the battle gets easier, I guess, is what I'm trying to tell people out there who are facing their own addictions. And we all have our road that we need to travel, and we all have the cross upon our back. And I hope that this discussion here will help other people recognize that they're not alone in these challenges. And a lot of people have gotten through them before, and so will they.
Absolutely. I think that's a good time to wrap it up. I want to thank David for coming on, because it's hard to share personal stuff like that. But, I think he will help people immensely by being able to relate and being able to understand, his pain. I'm sure many other people have the same pain and can relate and kind of seek, purpose and potential to change their own lives.
Yes.
So thank you for coming, Dave. Absolutely.
Yes. Thank you very much, David.
So,
and to all of our listeners, thank you very much. Please remember to leave your comments on iTunes, and see you next time.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening to A Swift Kick in the Ass podcast. We hope you enjoyed today's content, and we ask you to please leave us a review in iTunes. Also, head over to aswiftkickintheass.com to get a free copy of the Simple Spending Tool.